I'm John, and this is How to Be Human. At this point, you've probably heard me say the following phrase over and over again. People need each other. But it turns out I'm not just making it up. This is a biological truth. And right about now, you're probably thinking, cool, another soft boy vying for legitimacy in this world. And to that, I must say, ouch. And I feel seen. It turns out science backs me up on this. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. The importance of being known, or feeling seen, otherwise known as intimacy. It turns out that people are kind of nuanced, and so there are at least 3 factors that play into why people need intimacy. There's the sociological factor, the biological imperative, and the metaphysical or spiritual or emotive implications. We're going to start with the sociological factor. Anthropologist Stefana Broadbent researches how technology enables intimacy. In her recent research, she noted that people are always looking for different ways to connect with each other. She even wrote a book on it. It's called Intimacy at Work. And no, it's not about behaviors that will land you in the HR department. It's about how people are always using their social media or their phones or their messaging apps to connect with people, other people, even when they're on the clock. But in this time of retweets and subscribers and followers and friends, can you guess how many people the average person really communicates with on a regular basis? It's between 3 and 5. That's right. You can have over 1 million Instagram followers and still only communicate with the same 5 people. But why? Well, it's pretty simple when you think about it. You can only form real, meaningful relationships with a few people because you have to develop trust, and it takes time to get to know people. But there's another factor at play here. Do me a favor and think of your closest family or friends. All right, now imagine that you're giving your Oscar speech. I've practiced this a couple times. I walk up onto the stage, I thank God, my mom, my wife, and the few people who made me who I am. Did you catch that? The people who made me who I am. This should come as no surprise to you guys, but the people who we value most shape us. Life is a series of challenges. It's hard, and we rely on others to affirm our choices, to refine our character, to reflect our value to us, and to help us see the world more clearly. And that results in us only having a few close friends. Even if you're the most well-adjusted, confident person, you didn't just wake up that way. You needed the help of your parents, your siblings, your grandparents, your best friends, and your significant others to get that way. And that is a big responsibility. And we should also note that you can't just trust anybody to mold you. You have to make sure that they're a trustworthy craftsman. Which makes this line from the Backstreet Boys a little bit more troubling. I don't care who you are, where you're from. You know that feeling you get when your body's malnourished? Hunger. That's it. Well, it turns out that people don't just get hungry for food. There's all kinds of stuff that people hunger for. Love, acceptance, intimacy. That's right. There's a reason you get all excited when your phone rings and it's your boo. I mean, sure, there's the substantial dopamine hit that you get when your phone vibrates. But the deeper meaning is likely because people are made for relationships. Like a fish takes to the water, like a bird takes to the air, human beings need to be known. Let's put this another way. Everybody seems to have a food allergy these days. I happen to be sensitive to dairy. Say my wife and I go out to dinner with a couple coworkers. I leave the table when everyone else is ordering. I can trust that Danielle's not going to order me the cheesy, buttery surprise with an extra side of lactose, because she knows me. And her knowing me mixed with her love for me means that she's on board to help me survive. And it is really good to be on a team when it comes to survival. If you're not, things get dicey. It's worth mentioning that all of these kind of dovetail into one another, and you can't really have one without the other. Cool? Great. This next section might be kind of hard for some people to grasp because it has to do with feelings. And feelings, they're not really measurable in an objective way, but we have emotions, and a lot of times they impact our actions. So it's worth discussing these metaphysical or spiritual or emotive implications of developing healthy intimacy. But where do I begin?
Brene Brown. She's like the feelings guru.
Oh. Brene Brown sounds good. After watching a couple TED Talks, I get the hype. And if you're not familiar with Brene Brown, then obviously you're not friends with a lot of white women over 40 or people who study psychology. But she's a social worker and a New York Times best-selling author. Through her research, she makes a cogent argument for why vulnerability is the key to real intimacy. She thinks that intimacy is the key to healthy relationships, and healthy relationships might be why we're here. I happen to agree, and I am a fan of making complex issues more accessible in order to inspire change in the world through understanding. But because she's already done all the work for me, the next minute or so is just going to be me doing the spark notes for a really intelligent, witty, and well done presentation on intimacy. Through her research, Brown arrived at the following conclusions. 1. Everyone feels shame. 2. Shame is a fear that something about you makes you unworthy of relationships. 3. That fear is substantiated by the knowledge that in order to be known, you have to be vulnerable. 4. The difference between someone who feels a sense of belonging and someone who doesn't is a feeling of worthiness. 5. People will always find a way to numb their fear of vulnerability. 6. Vulnerability is the key to true intimacy. Whew, that's good. And we all know it to be true. Think about the last time you found a new band or a movie or a book you really liked that really resonated with you. There's a moment when you had the opportunity to share that thing with somebody who you really cared about. What was that moment like? Was it scary? Were you nervous? Did you say things like, "You may not get it, but..." That's because there's something about that thing that exposes a part of you. It makes you vulnerable. But what was that moment like when your friend or your loved one ended up liking that thing too? It's euphoric because now you're known. Now you can share in the love of this thing together. The same can be said for like going to see a comic book movie on opening night in a theater full of raucous nerds, or going to a con, or going to the blues parade after they win the Stanley Cup. All these things are better together. We belong together. That's it. Full stop. That's the whole ball game. Or in this instance, hockey game. Say it with me. People need each other. There is so much more that we could say about this, but I think what it comes down to is be careful who you let mold you. Find a nice tribe of people who know you, who love you, and who you can give back to. And lastly, live vulnerably so that you can experience life to the fullest. I think we ought to live other focused lives. I'm not giving you license to neglect yourself or to derive your value from what other people think about you. You're enough. But we also can't be self-centered all the time. If I need you, then the logic states that you need me. And that means that caring about you is really, really important for me to learn how to be human. Woo! That was a long one. Maybe it wasn't for you. For me, it was. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. The importance of feeling seen and known. I think when people think about intimacy, they automatically think about sex, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I'm starting to learn, the older that I get, how important it is to have people around who know you and who you can really be yourself around. I think we all feel more comfortable that way. I don't know. What do you think? I'm not just spouting this stuff off, am I? Does it have any element of truth? Phew. Anyway, if you like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. If you didn't like this one, there are other ones. There are other videos to check out. So check those out. Share. Tell your friends. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.